Germany lies at the heart of Europe. From the end of World War II until 1990, Germany was divided, east and west. Today, she is again one nation, one people. Germany, Wunderbar. Entering via the Porta Nigra, the Black Gate the Romans built at Trier, you enter Germany as visitors and conquerors have entered since the great days of the Roman Empire. Yet when you wander down near the market, an inscription here reminds us that Trier stood 1,300 years before Rome. Trier is indeed Germany's oldest city and full of character. The economic theoretician Karl Marx was born in this house in the Bruckenstrasse in 1818. The massive brick basilica built in the 4th century was the coronation chamber of Constantine the Great. Today, modern Trier stands proudly atop the foundations of its Roman predecessors. And the ruins of the Roman amphitheater still echo with bloody gladiatorial battles. And the Archaeological Museum houses a treasure trove of Roman antiquities, worthy of its station as an imperial residence for Diocletian and Constantine. Trier was capital of the Western Roman Empire, incorporating Gaul, Spain, Germania, and Britain. A great start for a great nation. Truly a wealth of history from the Roman treasuries. Aachen and the Mosel River Valley now await your pleasure. Aachen is Germany's westernmost city and capital of the Frankish Empire that dominated Europe after the fall of the Romans. Oh, and look, you can always tell when Frau Baumgartner is having one of her Big Mac attacks. And for heaven's sakes, if you're going to invest in a burger, don't forget the shake. Charlemagne, king of the Franks and Holy Roman Emperor, extended his dominion over Germany and most of Western Europe. Charlemagne lived and ruled from the year 747. The octagonal basilica incorporated within the cathedral was built by Charlemagne. 30 German kings have been crowned within these hallowed walls. In the cathedral treasury stands a jewel-encrusted bust of Charlemagne in gold, befitting the king who first consolidated Germany. The beautiful gold cross of Lothair, set with a cameo of the Emperor Augustus, is embellished with precious stones. It was created in the year 900. Inside the cathedral and the Basilica of Charlemagne, we're dazzled by a pulpit in gilded copper and by a gently bemused Madonna. The throne of Charlemagne is extraordinary in its understated simplicity. And Charlemagne's mortal remains are enshrined in a reliquary of handwork silver, gilded and embossed, a reflection of an extraordinary life. Since Roman times, the curvaceous meanderings of the Mosel River have appealed to romantic hearts. A Roman wine ship, frozen in time by a Roman sculptor, attests to the age of the vineyards here beside the Mosel. Vineyards grace every hillside, drinking in the sunshine. From fine Riesling grapes, crisp, fruity wines have been produced by the Landenberg family since time immemorial. Franz and Hildegard carry on a proud family tradition, bottling Mosel wines to please and appease the palates of wine connoisseurs the world over. In wine cellars deep beneath the Mosel, master tasters sample the aging, maturing Mosel vintages. Coming along just fine to judge by the expression on his face. Some wine is 2 years old, some is 20, some is 200 years in the bottle, but they sell no wine before its time at the Landenberg winery. Castle is one of Germany's most stunning sights, a pinnacle fortress studded with towers, turrets, and spires, perched precariously above the valley of the Mosel. It dates to the year 1150. Cruising the Mosel, up and down the stair-step locks, is an idyllic summer pastime that brings you in time to a very happy town, for we are bound for Kokum, the capital of the Mosel Valley. Browse for a while in the antique market around the town fountain, whose offerings may include the finest Dresden or Meissen porcelains. I think it's fascinating to watch the man who sells the trained mice in the market. And if you buy one, never mind a sack, he'll just tuck it in your blouse. The Mosel River is a constant threat to the towns that nestle beside it. The Hochwasser marks on the second story chronicle the depths of floodwaters and a long history of flooding. By the way, Napoleon slept in this bed at the Alta Thorschenke Hotel. Beautiful room, terrible bed, but it's only 5 feet 8 inches long. Situated at the confluence of the rivers Rhine and Main, the city of Mainz proudly claims its distinction as Germany's largest wine market. Wander in the city, and you'll find warmth and gaiety in its buildings, in its citizens, even in its fountains. The Mainz Cathedral is an enormous rendition of the Romanesque, with an adjoining cloister. Yet from the dark recesses of human illiteracy and ignorance, one name, Johannes Gutenberg, shines like a beacon. Gutenberg's original hand press is still at work, illustrating and illuminating our lives. Johannes Gutenberg invented and employed movable type so that something so simple yet profound as the printed word could be made available to the masses. What had formerly been the province of the scholar or the scribe now belonged to every man and woman. Gutenberg's crowning achievement was the printing of the Bible between 1452 and 1455. Our journey now follows the trails and the trials of Martin Luther, leader of the Protestant Reformation. It was in the village of Eisleben, in this home, that Martin Luther was born in 1483. Luther lived and studied here in Eisenach, where his beliefs diverged increasingly from those of the traditional practices of the Roman Church. Luther railed in his preachings against the church's practice of selling salvation. He preached that salvation is effected by God's grace alone. Martin Luther nailed the 92 points of his profound theses to the church door in Wittenberg, October the 31st, 1517. In the village of Schmalkalden, nestled in the hills of eastern Germany, Luther signed a petition, the Schmalkalden Association, the document which sealed the division of the Catholic and Protestant churches. Martin Luther had effectively shaken the powerful Roman Catholic Church to its very foundations. Martin Luther was excommunicated and summoned to appear before Charles V, the Holy Roman Emperor, at the Diet of Worms in 1521, and Luther was placed under the ban of the empire. Luther's personal safety was not so important as the sanctity of his ideas. Luther sought sanctuary at Wartburg Castle, framed against the heavens encircling Germany. And here, at this desk, his foot resting upon the vertebrae of a whale, Martin Luther translated the New Testament from Latin into the German language of his people. A dove perched outside his window. More than a reformation, a transformation was in the making. Luther returned to Wittenberg in 1522 to these stately quarters. Now, Luther translated the Old Testament, unlocking for all German-speaking peoples the messages and mysteries of that great tome, and published the first edition of the Old and the New Testament together under one cover. Luther married a former Cistercian nun in 1525. She was Katharina von Bora, and they raised 6 children. Born to a Catholic Germany, Luther left Germany Protestant. He left Germany in death February the 17th, 1546. His simple grave illuminates the same church where his 92 theses once fluttered on the door. And the breeze they fanned became in time a wind of profound change for Germany and for all mankind. Germany's Black Forest, the Schwarzwald, anchors the southwestern corner of the realm. Busy highways give way in time to roads and then to byways that dissolve in the innermost recesses of the forested mountainous terrain of the Black Forest. Oftentimes in life, grand enterprises have very humble beginnings. From a tiny spring, a mighty river is born. Burbling over the pebbles and rocks as it gathers way for a great journey, the river is the Danube. It is now 1,776 miles, touching Austria, the Czech Republics, Hungary, splintered Yugoslavia, Romania, Bulgaria, and Russia to the Black Sea. Farms nestle in the cleavage of the hills. Far from the smokestacks and autobahns of industrialized Germany, a gentler pace is preserved. The surrounding forests have provided both timber and livelihoods down through the ages. Indeed, mighty tree trunks transported from here to the Netherlands were fashioned then into ships that conveyed Germans and Dutchmen and French Huguenots to the New World. The human spirit attunes so perfectly to the ambience of woodland glens, summer breezes, and, as here in the Schwarzwald, to waterfalls. The waterfall at Triberg plays a woodwind and percussive symphony as it dashes towards the lowlands. And now a torrent of sheep comes flooding across the meadows, laden with winter's wool. Sheep herders and their working dogs are moving the sheep down from their early grazings, down to the farms where the shearing will begin. Don't ever romanticize about sheep raising. It is a labor long and arduous. Yet it is a time-honored bond between shepherd and dog, played out once again here in the timelessness of the Black Forest. Triberg is the center of the clockmaking industry. And are there bed and breakfast accommodations in Triberg? Well, you better believe it. Triberg boasts the world's largest cuckoo clock and offers almost infinite variety on the theme. I like the suitor who changes his mind when the girl's father appears. Master timepieces from master craftsmen press German history forward 1 second at a time. All signs and all roads in the Black Forest lead to Freiburg, Germany's gatekeeper on the boundary with France and a major university town. It was while searching for a way to manufacture gold that a Freiburg monk discovered gunpowder by accident, literally and figuratively. The Freiburg market is in full swing. Spring asparagus is just in, along with strawberries sublime, fine grills, pretzels the size of Rhode Island, and without a doubt the very finest sausages in all of Germany. The sun rises over Lake Constance. Just like thoroughbreds at the trough, Germany, Switzerland, and Austria all stand here shoulder to shoulder, border to border, drinking from these waters of this beautiful lake. An island in Lake Constance, Mainau, is a mystical kingdom of rare semi-tropical flora. Mainau Island is the private domain of a flamboyant offshoot of the Swedish royal family, Count Bernadotte. But the stunning gardens were laid out by the Grand Duke Friedrich of Baden during the middle of the 19th century. Today, the island stands as splendid testimony to the perpetual mildness of the climate of Lake Constance. The lovely lakeshore hamlet of Friedrichshafen soared to prominence at the end of the 19th century when Count Ferdinand von Zeppelin, an aeronautical engineer, began building his mighty silver dirigibles here. The toast of their day, Zeppelin's airships carried wealthy and important passengers in luxurious comfort transatlantic until tragedy befell that fateful day at Lakehurst, New Jersey. Friedrichshafen's museum houses charred remnants of the Hindenburg and all the aviation dreams that died that day. The lion, symbolizing Bavaria, guards the harbor at Lindau, the crown jewel of Lake Constance. Stroll along the Maximilianstrasse, down on the market square, or in the narrower side lanes, and time seems not so hurried. Pigeons and their dovecots give the local cats something to dream about and have a way of keeping local shopkeepers busy. The Town Hall of Lindau ranks in my mind as one of the most beautiful buildings in all of Europe, where such charming facades become a canvas for the artist's touch. There's an almost Mediterranean quality to the look and feel of Lindau. And the people who inhabit it. They touch and are touched by the gentle, warm waters of Lake Constance, and a cosmopolitan frame of mind that Austria and Switzerland are just a short boat ride away. A common thread connects a strand of true pearls, the towns and villages along the romantic route of Germany. The thread is a simple road running from Würzburg to enchanting destinations like Dinkelsbühl, Bad Mergentheim, Weikersheim, Schwäbisch Hall, Neuschwanstein, and Hohenschwangau. Dinkelsbühl, with its watching towers and watching storks, has a history as colorful as its charming facades. On the banks of the river Main lies Würzburg, emboldened and emblazoned by the prince-bishops of the Schönborn family. The palace, or as the Germans say, the residence, is the masterpiece of architect Balthasar Neumann. This genius of the chisel is Tilman Riemenschneider, a woodcarver and sculptor hailed as the master of Würzburg. His finest work graces the Kreglingen Church. Here, his figures seem literally to breathe. Faces, clothing, hands, all strain as if to speak, and collectively they intone volumes of the power of faith and the dignity of the human form. The Marienburg fortress towers over Würzburg, a grand and proud lady. The fortress wears vineyards for a skirt. Wine growers have the soup on most every evening of summer. The citizens of Würzburg relax in the cooler air on the higher slopes and toast the magic of summer. Augsburg, our next stop on the romantic route, traces its origins to a Roman encampment here in the year 15 BC. The Mozart house traces the local origins of the Mozart family. Leopold, the father and tutor, and his two brilliant children. The harpsichord belonged to Leopold Mozart. Augsburg certainly has a special address for its senior citizens. This charming enclosed neighborhood is the Fuggerei, founded by Fugger the Rich in 1519. 8 streets are lined with 53 apartments for needy citizens who pay only a token rent. Every evening, the 4 gates to the quarter are closed, as they have been every evening for almost 500 years. The Fuggerei was the first benevolent retirement community in the world. And the cost? 1 German mark per year, less than an American dollar. And by the way, there is a waiting list. Bad Mergentheim welcomes the early hours of a new day. Just a question. You can still bend over at the waist like this, can't you? Could you ever? In the midst of the morning market rituals, fresh apples are being squeezed into cider, a true toast to summer. The unbeatable taste of fresh apple cider can sure put a smile on your face. Which may explain why this cider worker prefers to remain incognito. Bad Mergentheim was home to the Knights of the Teutonic Order, a powerful religious and military presence. Their castle is a reminder of their chivalry and their towering influence. The very name Bad, as in Bad Mergentheim, means bath or spa. The healthy air and the beneficent waters of Bad Mergentheim make it a mecca for those in search of a cure. The village of Weikersheim and Weikersheim Castle are yet another stepping stone on the romantic route. The classic garden at Weikersheim dates to 1580 and is adorned in the subdued Renaissance style. The colorful town of Schwäbisch Hall grew up around salt springs, whose presence has been known since the first humans trod these grounds. Salt held great value along the early trading routes, and salt centers like Schwäbisch Hall were guaranteed great prosperity. The salt was derived from saltwater springs, and to extract the salt, great pots of water were perpetually simmered until the waters evaporated. Now, to honor these great traditions, an annual festival of salt simmerers is celebrated in Schwäbisch Hall against the backdrop of the town's late Baroque town hall. To attune our hearts and minds to so colorful a past, a medieval market recounts the days of yore and reflects upon the days that added one on one, bring us to today. This little trumpeter is looking for something to herald. Why, you really can't herald a dead chicken. But what about a king? The arrival of royalty caps a joyous day when simmering pride in a remarkable past can boil to the surface again. The ancient walled town of Rothenburg on the Tauber is a looking glass held up to the Middle Ages. Seen in the reflection is a fascinating and turbulent past. Rothenburg embraced the Protestant separation from Roman Catholicism in the days of Martin Luther. When the 30 Years' War that ravaged Europe from 1618 to 1648 pitted Protestant against Catholic, one of the most colorful chapters in Rothenburg's history unfolded. Protestant Rothenburg fell to the Catholic armies led by General Tilly, an uncompromising and stern general. Tilly vowed to burn Rothenburg to the ground. No amount of appeasing seemed to save the day, until Tilly was proffered a dram of the local wine. And so pleasing did he find the wine that he wagered that if any man of Rothenburg could drink 6 pints of the wine in a single draught, the town would be spared. Well, such a man was found, and Rothenburg and all of us are the richer for the preservation of such a treasure. In honor of the Meistertrunk, or the long drink, these heroic events and the times of which they partook are reenacted and revered. For 200 years after the end of the 30 Years' War, Rothenburg languished, impoverished, an obscure regional market. Nothing changed. Rothenburg could not afford to expand beyond its own walls. Awakening prosperity saw strict preservation laws enforced so that now you can march till you're out of spit, secure in the knowledge that Rothenburg and all its medieval charm can be passed to generations as yet unborn, but entitled to a glimpse of the pathways Germany has trod. Of all the architectural celebrations of the Baroque and the Rococo, few are the equal of the Wieskirche, the beautiful pilgrimage church in der Wies, in the meadow, the brilliant creation of architect Dominicus Zimmermann. Ludwig II, King of Bavaria, was born at Hohenschwangau Castle, the child of Maximilian II and Queen Marie. Bavaria in time placed a crown upon his head, and he in turn placed a crown upon the rugged brow of Bavaria. A fairy tale castle designed not by an architect, but by a designer of theatrical decor. Everything about Neuschwanstein and everything about the countryside in which it stands leads the mind to soar. From Neuschwanstein, visit King Ludwig's simple hunting lodge at Linderhof, a Rococo palace on a Renaissance terrace in an English-style garden in the midst of the Alps. Other than that, it's a perfectly ordinary place. Ludwig was obsessed with Oriental fables and the heroic legends of German history. When Richard Wagner first met the young Ludwig, Wagner exclaimed, "He is unfortunately so handsome and sophisticated, so soulful and so sincere that I'm afraid that his life will just fade away like some divine dream." Linderhof is a celebration of the Baroque. Everywhere there is the Baroque. The gilded fountain at Linderhof normally spews tons and tons of water, but it too, for the moment, is Baroque. The trek south along the Romantic route reserves the best till last, as the foothills of the Alps rise in successive waves before us. The proud village of Nesselwang is, to my mind, the most perfectly situated village in all of Germany. Oberstdorf is similarly blessed in situation, nestled at the foot of the Nebelhorn. If you will take the time for the climb, the view from the summit of the Nebelhorn is breathtaking. Hikers shun any conveyance but their own feet for the return to the valleys far below. Intrepid young pilots ascend the Nebelhorn to test the wind and to taste the sky on wings of silk. Not every attempt to fly succeeds, unless you persevere. But when finally the fickle wind is harnessed, it is well worth all the waiting and the trying. By the way, this foot straight out approach to flying, it's like a bumper, in case you run into a mountain like now. But in the words of Gil Rob Wilson, what is born in the instinct of a hawk or of a tern by the cunning of nature, the airman must learn. But the art is less matter of knowledge to fly than of just being at home out here with these moods of the sky. So here in the atmosphere's ambient change with the lifting effect of the whole alpine range, these sailors who sail upon this ocean of air with naught but their courage to carry them there, assemble their tiny and sensitive planes. Well, I know you've heard of rough landings. This is a rough takeoff. But can you imagine anything more exhilarating than to fly? To fly where the alpine peaks thrust upwards to impale the sky itself, and time is sequestered somewhere between long ago and eternity. To fly thus is to know that you are truly alive. Germany's Rhine River has its origins in the snowfall of winter in the neighboring Alps of Switzerland. Every tiny crystalline flake that falls is a building block for a river. The Rhine at this embryonic stage of development is a wintry playground for all who come to commune with this beautiful time of the year. Then with the advent of spring, the snows just aren't quite as slick as they once were. Indeed, they aren't slick at all. Look at this poor fellow over here. I think he's permanently stuck, at least until next winter. Soon the melting snows are gathering into tiny rivulets and streams and following the laws and unbreakable dictates of gravity. They begin their dramatic descent towards the lowlands and the sea. On the common boundary between Germany and Switzerland, squeezed between the Jura Mountains and the hills of the Black Forest, the Rhine thunders in spectacular cataracts. Reaching Basel, the adolescent Rhine has matured and truly come of age, ready to accept its crown as Germany's king of rivers and begin its stately procession across the German landscape towards the sea. The Rhine River is 820 miles in total length. Along its dramatic course, there's not a castle, nor a bend, nor a rock, nor a rookery that does not cry out with tales of chivalry and legend and lore. The village of Rüdesheim, tucked here beside the Rhine, has wine as its life's blood. The streets are as enchanting as they are narrow. Just downstream from Rüdesheim are a series of toll-collecting castles in and beside the Rhine. At the Mauseturm, the Rhine current is so swift that speedboats are not. For ships and barges headed downstream, the current is an assist. But upstream, progress is measured in inches per hour, not miles per hour. Rheinstein Castle in the town of Bacharach hove into view. Just before we encounter the Pfalz, another toll-collecting castle of ancient origins, exacting tariffs from all who pass this way. Towering 433 feet above the Rhine, the Lorelei is the legendary perch of an enchantress who beguiled and distracted boat captains at one of the trickiest navigation bends in the river, where lack of concentration spelled almost certain disaster. Marksburg Castle has a distinction to match its handsome stance. It is the only castle along the Rhine to have escaped destruction throughout its history. Certainly the fastest passenger craft on the Rhine are the Russian-built hydrofoils, like the ones that ply the Volga and the other endless rivers of that eastern realm. The ride aboard the Rhine hydrofoils is exhilarating. But the more leisurely way to see the Rhine is aboard a ship of the Great White Fleet, the KD Line. It is a cruise through both time and space. It's a wonderful family outing as the colorful textbook of German history unfolds all around you. The Rhine River accounts for 265 million annual tons of shipping. Barges, which account for all this tonnage, are home to the families that ply their trade, plying these currents. They fly the flags of France, the Netherlands, Switzerland, as well as Germany. The Rhine has felt every heartbeat in this giant of a realm, coursing as the main artery with the life's blood of a nation. With evening, the Rhine adorns itself with a patina of quicksilver, and thus, lighting its own course, pursues its endless passage to the sea. In 1949, in post-war Germany, the Rhine-side city of Bonn was selected as the provisional capital of the new West German Federal Republic to await reunification. One home in Bonn is truly a shrine. The greatest mind ever to grace these streets was not political, but musical. For Bonn is the birthplace and youthful home of Ludwig van Beethoven, the brilliant keyboard and string virtuoso. Morning and our tracks have converged upon beautiful Cologne at the same hour. People have rushed here for work and for play, for commerce and creativity since the Middle Ages, when Cologne was Germany's largest city. By the 14th century, Cologne was a beacon of German enlightenment. illuminating the broadening valley of the Rhine with a dynamic sense of mission and a purpose evident even today. Pointing the way to the heavens it espouses, Cologne's cathedral presents its face proudly to the world. Overwhelming in its size, its majesty, and its grandeur. Standing atop this almost mystical stone staircase to the stars, it is not so surprising that it took 600 years to erect such a masterpiece as that it could be done at all. The style is flamboyant Gothic at its best. The cathedral square has always been a crossroads for travelers, as they have come seeking in the ways of faith, commerce, or just a lodging for the night, and a chance to banish their hunger from the long journey. Evening along the Rhine is always a time for reflection. When the westering sun transforms the Rhine to liquid gold and impales itself upon the spires of Cologne's magnificent cathedral. Let our feet and our minds journey north for a time to where Germany meets the sea. Hamburg is Germany's second largest city and one of the most important ports in Europe. In history, Hamburg wore the title of free and Hanseatic city at a time when a city of such importance was a state unto itself. Hamburg lies where the river Elbe joins the sea. Fine natural harbor has long been a conduit for the exchange of German wares for the produce of the world. An annual turnover of over 60 million tons. Like so many port cities, Hamburg has both rough and refined edges. From the sleazy coarseness of the Reeperbahn to cultural attributes worthy of a center of such prosperity. One time-honored landmark, the proud Atlantic Hotel has played host to the world from behind its gleaming facade for over a century. American President John F. Kennedy occupied this suite during his famous visit to Hamburg, pausing to gaze out over the waters of the Außen-Ulster, one of Hamburg's two inland marshes. Hamburg's Sunday market is a fun, elbow-in-the-ribs kind of encounter with the Hamburgers. My goodness, the worst danger down here is the chance of being hit on the head by a flying banana. Wander on down to the wharves where fishing boats from the North Sea ply their fresh catch, and life moves to a very upbeat tempo. Evening casts Hamburg in a whole new light as the cares and concerns of commerce drift away on the gentle waters that caress the city. North of Hamburg, in the flatlands of Schleswig-Holstein, cows can graze, certainly, but so can ships. Ships traverse the green fields as if taking a shortcut across the land, which indeed they are. The Kiel Canal crosses northern Germany, connecting the North Sea with the Baltic Sea. Its 62-mile length is the world's busiest waterway. 46,000 vessels ply its course every year. The Holsten Gate is the trademark of Lübeck, a great Hanseatic city. Lübeck was capital of the Hanseatic League. And the Dutch architectural character of the community speaks volumes of the close ties that active trading fostered in these northern communities of peoples. The German novelist and Nobel laureate Thomas Mann was born in Lübeck in the beautiful Baroque white house known as Buddenbrooks. Lübeck is Germany's largest and busiest port on the Baltic, and at Travemünde, along the estuary to the sea, one of her busiest playgrounds. Here are sunny beaches at latitudes 800 miles north of New York City. At the heart of Germany lies Frankfurt am Main. Frankfurt is by far Germany's busiest airport and the home base of Lufthansa, the German national airline. Frankfurt is Germany's main revolving door to the world's peoples, whose comings and goings wash Frankfurt and the German nation with the tint of many hues and colors. Frankfurt on the Main River, so the name says. Fortifications and a palace stood here as early as Roman and Carolingian times. Indeed, from 1562 onward, Frankfurt replaced Charlemagne's Aachen as the coronation site for Germany's kings. The proud neighborhood known as the Römer is a restored section of pre-World War II Frankfurt. Germany's first parliament met here at St. Paul's Church. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe was born in Frankfurt in 1749, a man of happy demeanor and a fondness for telling stories. That his stories of passion and unrequited love were oft told with pen and paper before him ensures that his brilliant, colorful mind lives on. Frankfurt is a brilliant contrast between the old and the new. It is the central nervous system of the German banking system, the site of the German Stock Exchange, and a cosmopolitan center of shopping and commerce. Wide pedestrian avenues ban all traffic and give the core of the city a feeling that it is one vast shopping mall. Europe's tallest building, the Messeturm, is a reflection of Frankfurt's stature as a giant of commerce, not only for Germany, but for Europe and the world. Evening drifts by like the mighty river Main, bound for the oceans of time. Heidelberg is our next stop in our quest to know Germany. Heidelberg straddles the Neckar River. Heidelberg has, since 1386, been the seat of Germany's most famous university. Today, it educates and illuminates 27,000 students here in the birthplace of German Romanticism. Heidelberg presents itself to the world as it always has, having been largely spared the intense bombings inflicted on Germany during World War II. Beautiful, gentle Neckar River meanders through the German countryside, sampling virtually every compass coordinate as it gravitates towards the River Main and the Rhine. Perched high above the Neckar, an aviary is a haven and a breeding ground for the world's great birds. And from here, a mother eagle can look out at the world around, or she can look down at the cards that nature has just dealt her. It's just one big happy family around here. There's Dad and Mother, of course all the kids and their childish prattle, and the mother-in-law. But it's a great chance to see and be seen. Gazing down upon the surrounding countryside, the village of Bad Wimpfen was the imperial residence of the Hohenstaufens in the 13th century. The town itself occupies a beautiful throne perched high above the Neckar Valley. Prior to World War II, Nuremberg was a medieval jewel of a town, so perfectly Germanic in tone and in style that it was chosen by the Nazis for their massive annual rallies. Nuremberg was thus the Third Reich's ideological capital. In the central market square stands the Schöner Brunnen, the beautiful fountain. Ironically, it portrays a harmonious assemblage of biblical and national heroes, including 3 Jews and 3 Christians. And by the way, Nuremberg's tiny grilled bratwurst can claim without any hesitation the title of the very best sausage in all the world. It seems at first that our restaurant is receiving a fuel oil delivery, but it's not fuel oil. No, it's beer. Daily deliveries of truckloads of beer help to keep the tap vats full. Today, in addition to fine handworks, Nuremberg creates tractors, machine tools, electronics, electrical apparatuses, toys, and motorcycles. Big boys' toys. Climb the hill to the very base of Nuremberg Castle, where a knight in truly shining armor gazes over towards the sturdy home of Albrecht Dürer. The artist purchased this house in 1509 and lived here until his death in 1528. In the intervening years, Albrecht Dürer committed to canvas the great and the glorious. Here, the Holy Roman Emperor Maximilian I poses for the master. Dürer's adoration seems alive. Another painter, a house painter by trade, brought Germany to ruin. What began as a quest to restore Germany's power and prestige after her defeat in World War I led instead to a spiraling escalation of paranoia and retribution that destroyed both the soul and the substance of the nation. It was from Nuremberg that the anti-Semitic laws were promulgated. It was at Nuremberg that Germany's war criminals were tried, convicted, and sentenced for crimes against the very concept of humanity. Our journey will now carry us to the very heart of Bavaria and its vivacious capital city, Munich. But along our way, the German village of Oberammergau is ablaze with artistic traditions. From his balcony outpost, a local watchdog contemplates the happy stream of visitors. Oberammergau's most beautiful house is Pilate's house, built by a distinguished local citizen who portrayed Pontius Pilate in the famous Passion play which Oberammergau stages for the world one season in every decade. A terrible plague was visited upon this village of craftsmen and peasants in 1633. Their deliverance from the plague was so miraculous that a vow made then to portray the Passion of Christ is a promise lived up to this day. Oberammergau is still a world-class center for wood carving. The wood carver directs his energy, his passion, and his sense of symmetry and proportion, and frees the rapturous form held captive in the wood and in the artist's mind until now. Morning raises the curtain on splendid Munich, Germany's bastion of Catholicism. The name Munich, or München, refers to the Benedictine monks who inhabited this site when a true village first sprang into being in the 9th century. Munich is a wonderful, friendly, happy, and courteous town. I mean, listen, even the statues here are courteous. In the Renaissance Jesuit sanctuary of St. Michael's, morning sunshine washes the pews while the aisles are mopped and swept. Deep beneath the church, in the crypt, lie the mortal remains of Ludwig II, King of Bavaria and architect of Neuschwanstein. Munich hosted the world at the 20th Olympic Games conducted here in 1972. And on the outskirts of Munich, Nymphenburg Palace was the summer residence of the Bavarian kings, lying among the cooler breezes and the fresher air away from the city. The residence, the palace in the city center, was the official seat of power for the Wittelsbachs, and today in the treasury houses the crowns and the unspeakable wealth and treasure of the time. The Hofbrauhaus is the best known of the famous Munich beer halls. On average, 17,500 gallons of beer swill through here every day. And here too is the social and political brewhouse for new ideas. In 1919, Adolf Hitler founded the German Workers' Party and proclaimed its aims at the Hofbrauhaus. As the audience for his German vision grew, Hitler mounted the steps here at the Herrenfeldhall to harangue the masses. And the sausages here in Munich, they are to die for. They are the very best sausages in all of Germany. Today, Munich is a robust, gregarious town where 110 million gallons of beer are brewed for Germany and the world every year. And boy, the way this dear girl is hunkered down over her sausages and beer, I wouldn't try to take either one of them away from her. You know, it's always fun to be the littlest dancer in the folk dance troupe, unless you've got a flea in your dirndl. See, a flea in there can just nearly drive you crazy. Mind you, it's not so bad when you're out on the stage dancing. It kind of takes your mind off of it. But then when they shunt you back to the sidelines, you finally realize that now it's thee or the flea. The Marienplatz is the heart of Munich. In the tower of the ornate neo-Gothic town hall is the Glockenspiel, a veritable mecca for visitors. Brightly colored figures of enameled copper twirl to the Scheffler Tanz, the dance of the Coopers, or joust about in a roustabout sort of way in the tournament. It's really a hair-raising experience for some. Today, beneath the Virgin's column, celebrants gather for the annual religious celebration of Corpus Christi. For Roman Catholics, this is the most important religious holiday of the year. It is a time for people to gather, to raise high their banners and to proclaim their faith. The high and the mighty, both secular and religious, are in attendance. Young and old, rich and poor, all give heed to the celebration of this special Mass. The Bishop of Munich speaks, and all eyes and ears are attuned. But these are the faces of Germany today. They have rebuilt this land from the rubble of war and their own mental anguish. They have fashioned the economic cornerstone of Europe and stand very proudly upon it. In Munich, they build fine automobiles and locomotives and machine tools. They craft chemicals and rubber. They print and they publish. They brew and they play and they pray. With an eye to the future and one foot firmly anchored in their rich and colorful traditions, these are the people of Munich celebrating Corpus Christi, the body of Christ. The pristine grandeur of Bavaria's alpine realms is rarely equaled. Three mountain ranges, the Watzmann, the Steinernes Meer and the Hagengebirge embrace the land with their strong granite arms. The chapel at Ramsau is situated as if at the doorstep of heaven. And as you wander in the churchyards and graveyards of Bavaria, you'll find that carefully tended graves are a hallmark of Germany's churches and their parishioners. But the greatest attraction is the mind-bending trek up from the great basin of Berchtesgaden to Hitler's eagle's nest on the summit of Kelstein Mountain. Martin Bormann ordered this extraordinary feat of engineering in celebration of Hitler's 50th birthday. Yet after an enormous outlay, Hitler rarely came here. He found he felt uncomfortable at such elevations. Today, Hitler's Eagle's Nest is a tea house with a stunning view over Bavaria and the world beyond. A place to contemplate conquest, or better. The Königssee, or Sea of the King, is a shining silver mirror in which the mountains may admire their own reflections. Boat excursions on the Königssee offer a chance to commune with the mountains and with these waters at their feet. Near the southern extremity of the Königssee, beautiful St. Bartholomew's Chapel raises its enchanting spires in supplication to the heavens and the majesty all around. You'll have a chance to come ashore for a time, to explore St. Bartholomew's, to know the village. But throughout the Alps, evening comes very early to the valleys as the sun slips behind the mountains. Here, on its way to an evening rendezvous, the sun is skipping over the waters in a joyous and happy dance of celebration. The Alps smile down on the twin villages of Garmisch and Partenkirchen, which share the special fame and world acclaim that they hosted the Winter Olympics in 1936. Partenkirchen's main street is like an outdoor gallery of art. Almost every facade a canvas for the artist's touch. In Garmisch, you can hardly walk the streets without the feeling you're being watched. Time and again, a merry twinkle breaks through the stoic German reserve. Garmisch is a classic alpine village, and in Garmisch, a fountain commemorates the life and works of Richard Strauss, who lived and composed in Garmisch. The haunting, almost gypsy strains of the hurdy-gurdy enliven the crisp mountain air. Germany's highest peak nestles nearby. This sheer gray tooth of time, this pinnacle of the Wetterstein Alps, the Zugspitze. Ascent of the Zugspitze may be achieved by cable car or by rack railway from either the German or the Austrian sides as the international boundary of the two nations passes through the summit of the Zugspitze. But the Alps are a world beyond the normal scale of things. And if you have to shovel, where to put the snow is no problem. Oh, sorry, ma'am. A blanket of clouds nestles in around the Zugspitze, tucking it in for a time. Beautiful sight to behold here from above. and a beautiful sight to behold from below where snow has blanketed the higher elevations. In the green summer pastures high above the villages, cows can graze away the days of summer. But then, on summer evenings, the cows are driven gently and with great dignity by bicycle-riding herdsmen to their respective home sites throughout Garmisch and Partenkirchen. In our quest to know Germany, our journey now carries us through the Iron Curtain, which has rusted away. In 1945, war-ravaged Eastern Germany passed under Soviet control. For over 40 years, a cold wind blew through the east. Soviet-style construction and Soviet-style society ensured a veneer of accomplishment on the surface, but without lasting structure or substance underneath. Great treasures of the past lay in ruins for almost 5 decades. Environmental concerns were non-existent. In time, the infrastructure of roads and services decayed. Ugly walls were built to keep the citizens captive and unwanted influences out. But a welcome wind of change began to blow over Eastern Germany in the late 1980s. The Soviet monolith was crumbling. Light was filtering into even this darkest corner of the communist community. From both sides of the wall, the clamor for reunification was so great that the reverberations brought the wall crashing down. Today, East Germans are climbing out of the ideological abyss of their recent past into the sunshine of a new age, when German boys and girls will never again have to look at the world through a hole in a wall. The old order of East Germany is being torn asunder. In its place, a blueprint for dramatic change. One word sums it all up: capital. Capital in unbelievable quantities. Up to 7% of the total German gross national product is being invested in the east of Germany every year. Capital provides new construction for commerce, new construction for housing, new infrastructures, sewers and water lines and electrical services and telephones. There are happy scenes, as today crowded markets, bursting with apparel and the other offerings of the world marketplace are reappearing. The old regime of East Germany produced one automobile, the Trabant, affectionately known as the Trabi. It's plain, two-stroke engine, plastic, smelly, noisy, polluting, rough riding, and dangerous. Otherwise, it was a good car. Expensive, though, about 7 years' salary on average. But that's okay, they say you had to wait 10 years to get one. But it was the one car to which a young East German couple could aspire. Today, the factory is shuttered. Trabis will eventually be banned or become collector's items. VWs, Opels, Audis, Mercedes will take their place. But for now, Trabis are still showing up at all the most interesting places. The town of Eisenach is indelibly linked with great forces and great faces that have shaped German history. Johann Sebastian Bach was born here in 1685. Martin Luther lived here, studied here, he preached here, and translated the New Testament here at Eisenach. Indeed, the parish church of St. George has the distinction of having had Martin Luther as a preacher and Johann Sebastian Bach as organist. Eisenach, too, is undergoing a dramatic facelift in anticipation of its drawing power as a major visitor destination. Once drab hotels today gleam, and visitors to Eisenach look out upon a new world order and a new day dawning with the promises of challenge and opportunity. The Thüringer Forest is often dubbed the green heart of Germany, or sometimes the lung of Germany. It inspired Goethe, who often tarried or rambled here. And the forest floor is carpeted with a profusion of wild flowers and those who come to service them. Until evening's light comes slanting down through the trees of the beautiful Thuringian forest. A steam railroad still serves the town of Wernigerode and all its environs. The castle in its dominance affords a beautiful overview of Wernigerode, situated at the foot of the Harz Mountains. The town hall in Wernigerode is a splendid half-timbered structure dating to the early 1500s, and in the streets leading to the square, the ornate homes of wealthy burghers. Houses of the citizens are on a smaller scale, but exude an extraordinary warmth and personality. And for a happy, sooty taste of the past, board the Wernigerode Express for a classic dash out through the Harz Mountains of eastern Germany. Two names, two great minds, two philosophies intertwined. Great friends were Goethe and Schiller. Great that they were for Germany and the world, for they inspired one another. Goethe lived here in this stately of sober home, and Schiller was only blocks away, his mind a fervor of classical thought. German classicism reached its zenith in Weimar during the 18th century reign of Duchess Anna Amalia, as she drew the most brilliant minds of her day to her court. The great music school of Franz Liszt still stands just around the corner from the market here in Weimar. Such markets are still a happy and welcome novelty and diversion for the Eastern Germans. Consumer goods were extremely scarce under the old regime. And when the smoke starts to curl down at the bratwurst stand, we are reminded that Thuringia has, beyond a doubt, the very finest sausages in the East or in the West. This colorful house was home to Lucas Cranach, a contemporary of and portrait painter of Martin Luther. The characterful local church of St. Peter and St. Paul harbors many of Cranach's masterpieces. The town of Meissen gives its name to and derives its fame from the beautiful porcelain produced here. An alchemist, Johann Friedrich Bircher, laboring on behalf of the Emperor Augustus the Strong, unlocked the mysterious mystery and riddle of creating Chinese porcelain. The year was 1709. Meissen and Dresden would become the European capitals of this remarkable craft. Today, a museum at the factory in Meissen shares the exquisite artistry invested in each piece of Meissen porcelain, and the very best that almost 3 centuries of German creativity have wrought. Mighty Berlin beckons to us now. Berlin is the capital of unified Germany, the city of Frederick the Great, of Bismarck, and of Adolf Hitler, lay in ruins at the end of World War II, conquered and divided. The Kaiser Wilhelm Church is a repentant but unrepaired testimonial to the tragedy of war. The sprawling Kurfürstendamm, Berlin's great shopping street, this is the street that is vibrant, always alive, the street that never sleeps. And today Berlin is Germany's largest city, 4 million strong and growing. Munich, Hamburg, and Frankfurt could all fit within Berlin's embrace. The Jewish synagogue, towering above the Oranienburger Strasse, is a lantern glowing from the darkness of Germany's worst hour. During the blackest days of Nazi depravity, being Jewish was a sentence to death or slave labor. Only one-way tickets led to the railheads at places like Dachau and Buchenwald. Concentration camps. Not only Jews, but Slavs, Gypsies, the mentally ill, the handicapped, were ordained for death as part of the Nazi final solution. The monument, the memorial at Buchenwald, is on so vast a scale as to try to bend our minds to grasp the enormity of what human beings perpetrated here. 2 simple German words inscribed at Dachau sum up what must be German resolve and the resolve of all mankind. Nie wieder. Nie wieder. Never again. Twice, the Western world embraced uniquely German causes. The Berlin airlift to break the Soviet blockade, and the clarion Kennedy call for the wall to come down. This hideous scab on the face of human history. East German socialism was an order fashioned of tyranny and fastened in place by guns and tanks. Its citizens were fleeing this societal farce so fast that a prison wall was built to keep them in. An ingenious and daring few breached or tunneled under the wall to safety. One ingenious German girl escaped in the hollowed-out seat of her boyfriend's car. A broken ladder lies as mute testimony to those who failed. Their names rank with all the martyrs of history who have died in the name of freedom. On October the 3rd, 1990, the divided Germany's East and West became one. The Reichstag again proclaims itself the cornerstone of the German people. The Brandenburg Gate is the very emblem of Berlin, yet for 3 decades it was a tortured reminder of the city's division. The wall passed beside its soaring legs. Souvenir vendors do a brisk business today selling military memorabilia of the Cold War era. The broad avenue, called Unten den Linden, is East Berlin's main thoroughfare. And if, as you wander this burgeoning, blossoming street, you should wonder, who won the Cold War? Just look around you. Just look around you. The Berlin Cathedral is a turn-of-the-century landmark presiding over East Berlin. This massive neo-Baroque masterpiece with its soaring dome looks like the staircase to the pearly gates, and it is the Protestant cathedral. Just a quick dash across the Unten den Linden is Marx Engels' Platz. Karl Marx sits here now in stoic contemplation. He stood for nearly 50 years, but things haven't been going so well lately. The River Spree invites a leisurely stroll through the heart of the city, or one of the markets that lend a romantic, almost village air to the metropolis. The neighborhoods of East Berlin are a haven for the avant-garde, as here in the Prenzlauer Berg. And they tell a story of once noble facades, pummeled by war over 50 years ago, and impacted by neglect in the absence of capital under socialism. Sunday breakfast here is a leisurely affair. Breakfast is served until 4 in the afternoon. From anywhere in United Berlin, the subways lead to the Kaufhaus des Westens, the KaDeWe, literally the store of the West, and head straight for the 6th floor, the gourmet department, and bring your shopping list. Sure, I'll have some hand-cut bacon, and I'd like a nice cut of the pork, and maybe a few of the sausages. Actually, the one over here, if you will, please, some of that, and, well, sure, whatever that is, and 2 chickens, if you'll wrap them to go, and I think we can certainly decide on some fish. I would enjoy about 1 kilo of the red snapper. No, not that one, please. And there's cheese, of course, and caviar, no. 1 mortgage is enough. I would enjoy some of the lobster. And while you're there, would you get me a bottle of the pear schnapps? And to round it all off, literally and figuratively, how about some pastries? You may enter from either side now, east or west, the Brandenburg Gate, this doorway of a unified city and people. In this land of stunning rivers, the Elbe exhibits its own unique character in its passage from Schmilke on the Czechoslovakian border to Dresden and beyond. A singularly striking stretch of the stream passes the Bastei, these rocky bastions keeping watch over the river and all who traverse its course. A century-old passenger steamer welcomes you aboard now for a leisurely cruise on to Dresden, the jewel of Germany. This dramatic treasure of a city, this Dresden, so often referred to as the Florence on the Elbe, began its ascendancy during the first half of the 19th century, during the reign of Augustus the Strong, who embellished the landscape with a broad Baroque brush. 4 jewels in particular shine as his crowning achievements. The first is the cathedral, reaching to the heavens from the central core of Dresden. Second is the Semper Opera House, named for its architect. Perched in the theater plots, the Semper is a songbird, both architecturally and artistically. Dresden's palace has worlds to offer. The palace stables themselves seem fit for a king. The exterior wall of the stable is emblazoned with a mosaic of colossal proportions depicting the procession of the dukes. The Zwinger, the palace's pleasure pavilion, is an enormous fountain-cooled esplanade surrounded by Baroque galleries and arcades. The visual embrace bestowed upon the observer is an emotional hug, never to be forgotten. The palace itself is only now being reconstructed after lying 50 years in ruins. Only months before the end of World War II, the night of February the 13th, 1945, Dresden was the target of one of the Allies' most destructive air raids, sanctioned by Winston Churchill. Many believe in retaliation for the bombing of Coventry and its cathedral. In the hideous rain of fire that night, over 35,000 lives were lost, and the city was 75% destroyed. And if you don't believe in miracles, let me show you one in the making. The Frauenkirche, the Church of Our Lady, was the mother church of Protestantism in Germany. By the morning of February the 14th, 1945, it lay in smoldering ruins, and so it lay for nearly 50 years. The diagram in dark shows the part remaining of a mighty cathedral, once taller than a football field is long, 312 feet. Restoration has now begun with the painstaking care of open-heart surgery. Each piece of the million-ton pile of rubble is being recovered, marked, cleaned, designated for reuse or replacement. The area of the Frauenkirche's high altar has just been cleared. Charred embers lie where the sacraments once lay. For now, soaring columns hold up little but the sky. Here and there, faint whispers of color still radiate their messages of hope from the rubble where they were buried alive on that fateful night so long ago. One treasured piece at a time, the Frauenkirche will rise again. The earliest possible completion goal is the year 2016. No amount of reconstruction can salvage the 35,000 lives lost in the rain of fire unleashed here in 1945. No amount of reconciliation can restore the millions of lives lost in the hideous mill of war as the world spun inexorably towards that fateful hour. But the Frauenkirche has lain too long like a precious porcelain doll, dashed to the ground in the midst of a raging war, almost too damaged to repair, but far too precious not to try. Like a stricken lady, she will first kneel and then mercifully, miraculously rise to her feet again. She's the personification of Germany, this phoenix rising from the ashes. From every quadrant, east and west, she will gather them at her skirts, these German folk, and proclaim a reunification that transcends boundaries in the body politic, the reunification of the German soul. Germany, Wunderbar.